بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So continuing, we began talking about certain characteristics to look for. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala is explaining to us what we should look for when befriending someone, when making someone a friend. What type of characteristics should a person look for, and which ones will be beneficial for them? So one that we talked about last week, or 2 weeks ago rather, is al-ula al-aqlu. He says that the first characteristic and the first quality that you should seek in your friend is intellect. He says because there is no benefit in befriending someone who is foolish, and their foolishness will only harm you. The second one now that Imam Ghazali is speaking about is good character. He says that obviously the person that you are befriending, the person that you want to keep as your friend, the one that you want to keep a close relationship with, should be someone who has good character, good morals, good akhlaq. So he says, فَلَا تَصْحَبْ مَنْ سَاءَ خُلُقُهُ. He says, do not be friends with a person of bad character. وَهُوَ الَّذِي لَا يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ وَالشَّهْوَةِ. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala, he mainly describes the person. He says that the person who has bad character is someone who cannot control himself when he gets angry and when he is filled with desire. So he cannot control his anger or his desire. This is the definition that Imam Ghazali rahimahullah is giving over here. That look, good character and bad character, he says that the defining factor between the two, he says someone who can control their desires and control their anger mainly is someone who most likely will be kind, and that person's character will be good. He says a person who cannot control their anger, he says you never know when they're going to lash out, when they're going to say something to you, when they're going to curse you, swear at you, harm you. You never know. So he says that person who has a hard time controlling their anger, he says most likely that person is not a person of good character. He says وَقَدْ جَمَعَهُ عَلْقَمَةُ الْعُطَارِدِي فِي وَصِيَّتِهِ لِابْنِهِ لَمَّا حَضَرَتْهُ الْوَفَاةُ فقال يا بني إذا أردت أن تصحب إنسانا فاصحب من إذا خدمته صانك وإذا صحبته زانك وإن قعدت بك مؤونة مانك. He now makes mention of a pious scholar of the past by the name of Alqama Utaridi. He said that when he was passing away, he gave some pieces of advice to his son before he passed away. So he says that among these pieces of advice, he told his son, Ya bunayya, that, oh my son, إِذَا أَرَدْتَ أَن تَصْحَبَ إِنسَانًا, that when you want to befriend someone, when you want to make someone your friend, then فَاصْحَبْ مَنْ إِذَا خَدَمْتَهُ صَانَكَ, then befriend that person, stay in the company of that person, that when you serve them, they preserve you and they grant you safety. وَإِذَا صَحِبْتَهُ زَانَكَ, and if you spend time with them, they beautify you with their company. وَإِنْ قَعَدْتَ بِكَ مَؤُونَةً مَانَكَ, and if you are in financial need, they provide for you. اصحب من إذا مددت يدك إلى خير مدها وإن رأى منك حسنة عدها وإن رأى منك سيئة سدها. He says, he continues to advise his son. He says, take as your friend the person that when you extend your hand towards something that is good, meaning when you try doing something that is good, maddaha, they help you and they assist you in that good. وَإِنْ رَأَى مِنْكَ حَسَنَةً عَدَّهَا, And when they see something good in you, they appreciate it. وَإِنْ رَأَى مِنْكَ سَيِّئَةً سَدَّهَا. And if they see something bad in you, they stop you from doing it. Ishab, he continues, Ishab man idha qulta saddaqaka wa idha hawalta amran amaraka wa in tanaza'tuma fi shay'in atharaka. He says, take as your friend the one that when you say something, he believes you. When you attempt something, you try doing something, he accepts your leadership. And if you have an argument, then he prefers you over himself. So these are some pieces of advice this pious scholar gave his son when he was passing away. So among many of them, he said that you need to befriend someone who helps you, especially when you're doing good. That when you extend your hand to something good, they help you. If they see a good quality in you, they appreciate that good quality. And if they see a bad quality, they help you remove that bad from you and from your life. When you get into an argument, they are not quick to ridicule you. Rather, they prefer you over themselves and your opinion over their own. So he said that this is what a person should look for. This is basically good character. This is what a good friend looks like. That you stay in their company, you help them, they help you. The more you stay in their company, the more their company benefits you. You're in need of financial assistance, they help you. You're trying to do something good, they help you in that. You have a bad quality, they try removing it and they help you to remove it. You have a good quality, they praise you for it and they appreciate it. You say something, they believe you. You try doing something, they help you. So he says that these are the characteristics of a good friend. This is what it means to have good character. وقد قال علي رضي الله تعالى عنه إن أخاك الحق من كان معك ومن يضر نفسه لينفعك ومن إذا ريب الزمان صدعك شتت فيه شمله ليجمعك. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he mentions a poem that verily your true brother is he who is really with you, who will harm himself in order to benefit you, and who when the troubles of time break you will shatter himself to pieces in order to gather you together. This is Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu's poem. That look, a true friend will go through great difficulty themselves in order to benefit you. They will break themselves into pieces in order to gather your pieces together and to make the most of your life. He says these are the characteristics that you should look for in a friend. This is husnul khuluq. This is good character. So the first thing, he said that the first thing you look for is al-aqlu, intellect. The second thing you look for, he says husnul khuluq, good character. The third thing, he says, athalithatu as-salahu, uprightness, righteousness, piousness. Right? This person is a good person, obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, فَلَا تَصْحَبْ فَاسِقًا مُصِرًّا عَلَى مَعْصِيَةٍ كَبِيرَةٍ لِأَنَّ مَنْ يَخَافُ اللَّهَ لَا يُصِرُّ عَلَى كَبِيرًا وَمَنْ لَا يَخَافُ اللَّهَ لَا تُؤْمَنُ غَائِلَتُهُ بَلْ يَتَغَيَّرُ بِتَغَيُّرِ الْأَغْرَاضِ. He says, look, do not befriend a wrongdoer who persists and who is always committing evil. He says, because someone who fears Allah does not continue to sin. And a person who does not fear Allah, he says, you cannot be safe from that person's danger. Meaning, if that person does not fear the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is not afraid to disobey Allah, he says, then how can you say that you yourself are safe from that person's danger? That person does not take into account Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rights upon him. Why will that person care about your rights upon him? This is very simple. A person who is constantly sinning and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, cannot be a good friend. You never know. Meaning, if a person has that much courage that they are going to openly disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time, what makes you think that person is material for a good friend? That person will disobey you. That person will turn their back on you. That person, you never know what they're going to do to you. So he says that one very easy way to understand if a person will be a good friend to you or a bad friend to you is check their relationship with Allah. What do you see? Is that person regularly trying to better themselves and obey Allah, or are they disobeying Allah? Is a person who is constantly disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does not care about the rights of Allah, why will they care about the rights of you? He says, therefore, this person is someone that you should watch out for. He says, بَلْ يَتَغَيَّرُ بِتَغَيُّرِ الْأَغْرَاضِ. He says, rather this person changes with the changing in their objectives, meaning different motives at different times. This person will want something else. If that person will treat you according to their own objectives. He says, therefore, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قال الله تعالى لنبيه ولا تطع من أغفلنا قلبه عن ذكرنا واتبع هواه وكان أمره فرطا. Because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala advising the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, do not obey someone whose heart we have made heedless of our remembrance. Meaning, don't befriend, don't stay in the company of people who do not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ, and they only follow their own desires. وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا, and whose case is gone beyond all bounds. He says, this is not the person that you want to befriend. Remember, we talked about it, that Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala anhu, someone asked him, what are the characteristics of a good friend? So he said that one of the main things that a person should look for in a friend, right? Somebody came, Ayu julasa'ina khair. So he says, Man zada fi ilmikum mantiquhu. That when that person speaks, they increase you in knowledge. وَذَكَّرَكُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ عَمَلُهُ, and their actions remind you of the hereafter, the akhirah. وَذَكَّرَكُمْ بِاللَّهِ رُؤْيَتُهُ, and seeing them reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He goes, that should be the person that you befriend. Someone that their actions and the way that they conduct themselves reminds you of the hereafter, reminds you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone who is, they themselves forgot who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, that person cannot remind you, and that person will not be beneficial to you. Remember, at the end of the day, we always prioritize those things that will benefit us in the hereafter over things that will benefit us in this dunya. So therefore, even though this person is your friend in this dunya, you're thinking about the hereafter. That how will this person help me in getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How will this person help me in staying away from the tricks of shaitan and staying away from the fire of Jannah, staying away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How will this person save me from those things? How will this person help me in building my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But that's what we should worry about. That's the main thing. Therefore, Imam Ghazali says that the third characteristic to look for is righteousness. How close is this person to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Now, again, at the end of the day, only Allah knows who is close to Him and who is not. But what do you see? Do you see a person who has a worry, who's worried about their salah, who's worried about their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's worried about coming to the masjid, who's worried about how they deal with other people? Or is this a person who has absolutely no regard for Islam? And what is this person like? Right? From your perspective, what do you see in this person? So he says, فَاحْذَرْ صُحْبَةَ الْفَاسِدِ, because therefore you should stay away from the companionship of a wrongdoer. فَإِنَّ مُشَاهَدَةَ الْفَاسِقِ وَالْمَعْصِيَةِ عَلَى الدَّوَامِ تُزِيلُ عَنْ قَلْبِكَ وَقَعَ الْمَعْصِيَةِ وَتُهَوِّنَ عَلَيْكَ أَمْرَهَا. He mentions a very important thing. He says, look, constantly witnessing, constantly seeing someone sin, slowly will remove the danger of that sin from your heart. Meaning, when a person constantly sees people committing a sin, when a sin becomes normal, then slowly, the dangerousness of that sin is removed from the heart. That even when a person does something themselves, and a person does something wrong once, and they do something haram, and they do it again, and again and again, and they build a habit, and it's become a normal thing for them now. That person does not see this thing as dangerous anymore. The same thing, if you stay in the company of people that don't care about intoxicants, they drink wine, they drink alcohol. Okay, you yourself are not doing it, but now you're sitting in the company of people that do. And they're doing it in front of you, you're watching them do it all the time, they're doing it all the time. Slowly, now maybe you're still going to think it's haram, obviously, but maybe the amount or the way you thought about it before, of how dangerous it was, maybe there's going to be a slight decreasing in that danger, but when it comes to the way you perceive it, because a person becomes used to it. And when a person becomes used to it, used to seeing it, they don't consider it to be dangerous anymore. So he says, therefore, constantly watching people sin, constantly watching the sin, tuzilu an qalbika waqa al ma'siyah. It will remove the enormity, the dangerousness of the sin from your heart. And when the dangerousness of that sin is removed from your heart, then now you're not scared to do it. Now you think it's okay. And slowly, this will. He says, وَلِذَلِكَ هَانَ عَلَى الْقُلُوبِ مَعْصِيَةُ الْغِيبَةِ لِإِلْفِهِمْ. He goes, this is why the crime of backbiting has become very acceptable in the eyes of people. Meaning, how many times are we sitting there and we're backbiting and nobody even thinks twice about it? Why? Because it's become so common. People are doing it all the time that we don't even think it's something wrong anymore. Lying. How many times do we lie? And we witness people lying. So much so that it's so common now that we don't even think of it as being something bad. It's normal. People do it all the time. Swearing, cursing. Right? People do it all the time, and because of them seeing it all the time, hearing it all the time, doing it all the time, now the dangerousness and the severity of that sin is now gone. It's now considered something that is light. Because وَلَوْ رَأَوْا خَاتَمًا مِنْ ذَهَبٍ أَوْ مَلْبُوسًا مِنْ حَرِيرٍ عَلَى فَقِيهٍ لَاشْتَدَّ إِنْكَارُهُمْ عَلَيْهِ وَالْغِيبَةُ أَشَدُّ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. He says, if a person sees someone else doing something wrong, that that person is wearing something they should not be wearing, they're doing something they should not be doing. He says that people are very, very quick to disapprove of what that person is doing. Because but the ghiba is far worse than that. Right? We talked about the ghiba before. It came a few chapters ago. It is akin to eating the flesh of your dead brother. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Holy Quran. It was a very, very severe and dangerous sin. He says, however, because it's become so common, people are always hearing it, people are always doing it, people are always witnessing it. Because of this, people don't see it as a dangerous sin anymore, even though it's a very, very dangerous thing. So he says that's what happens. Therefore, you want to stay in the company of someone who is righteous. Because although maybe your friend is someone who is not righteous, they are disobeying Allah. And you may think that I'm fine. I'm not disobeying Allah. I'm still going to the masjid. I'm still praying. But slowly, the things that they do will have an impact on your heart. Slowly. And it's always easier for evil, right, to impact, right, the good. Because again, like that person is taking the easy route. You have to wake up in the morning, come to the masjid. You have to stop what you're doing and go to the masjid. You have to stop what you're doing and pray. For that person, it's easy. They can do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it. So obviously, a person is always going to be inclined for something that's easier. Right? Most likely, he says that most likely, you're not going to win over that person. That person's going to win over you. Because they're doing the easier thing. They're just following their own desires. They're relaxing whenever they want to. They're saying whatever they want to say. They're eating whatever they want to eat. You're living the more difficult lifestyle. Most likely, you're going to see their lifestyle like, that's so easy. The person's not worried about what they're consuming. They're not worried about what they're doing, what they're saying, who they're talking to, who they're hanging out with. I have to worry about all these things. That slowly, a person is inclined towards that. Right? A person is always going to be inclined towards that which is easy. Right? Living a life of obedience is difficult. And we see the amount of fitna that goes around us. Right? People are living very, like when we look at them in comparison to us, they're very easy lives. They wake up when they want to wake up. They say what they want to say. They hang out with who they want to hang out with. No responsibility in terms of what's going to happen to them in the hereafter. Now again, we're living the better life, but it's more difficult. So therefore, a person oftentimes like, oh, why put myself through all this difficulty? And they look for ease. He says, therefore, you should watch out for who you befriend, and make sure the person that you befriend is someone who puts the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before everything. Number 4, he says, the fourth characteristic is the absence of greed. That you don't want to befriend someone who is greedy. فَلَا تَصْحَبْ حَرِيصًا عَلَى الدُّنْيَا. He says, do not befriend someone who is greedy for this world. فَصُحْبَةُ الْحَرِيصِ عَلَى الدُّنْيَا سُمٌّ قَاتِلٌ. He says, because friendship with someone who is greedy for this world is a lethal poison. لِأَنَّ الطِّبَاعَ مَجْبُولَةٌ عَلَى التَّشَبُّهِ وَالِاقْتِدَاءِ. He's saying the same thing I just said right now. He goes, because a person's nature, that by nature, a person will take from another without even realizing it. By nature. That a person sees someone doing something and they feel that, oh, that thing is either cool or that thing is good or that thing is easy. And without even realizing it, they're going to slowly start doing that thing. And then before you know it, the good habit that you had is gone, and now you have this bad habit. That the person sees that, okay, I'm just going to now stick to my faraid. I'm not going to perform any sunan, any extra salah. The person at the beginning probably never thought that. At the beginning, they're probably like, oh, 1, 2, I'm going to let go. Okay, I'm not going to pray this one. I'm not going to pray this one. 1, 2 rak'ah, I'm going to let go here and there. Slowly, it'll become a habit. And slowly, without even realizing it, they're going to stop performing the sunan altogether. And then slowly, and then it just builds from there. Then a person becomes lazy with regards to 1, 2 sunan, and then the other sunan, they start becoming lazy with those two. Once a person becomes lazy with the sunan, now the fara'id are in jeopardy. So he says that it's human nature that a person wants that which is easy, and they're going to adopt something that is easy without even knowing it. But nobody wants to do things the hard way. A human finds the easy way, they're going to do the easy way. Now, whether the easier way is beneficial for them or not, it doesn't matter. Right? That everybody likes taking shortcuts, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to think that this is a shortcut, and you're going to neglect the good habit that you developed over the years. He goes, but this is something that's not good. He goes, فَمُجَالَسَةُ الْحَرِيسِ تَزِيدُ فِي حِرْسِكَ. He goes, this is only going to increase you. Staying with a person like this will only increase you in your greed for this world. And if a person, on the contrary, if you stay in the company of someone who's not attracted to this world, he goes, again, that will increase you in your detachment from this world. He goes that if you stay in the company of people who are attached to the world, you yourself will become attached to the world. Oh, that person has this at home and they have this and this and this and this. Oh, I should get that too. I should get that too. Oh, this person they're able to live without all of these things. Oh, that means I can probably do it too. So he goes, no, it depends on who you hang out with, who your friends are, in whose company you're staying. People who are attached to the dunya will only increase your attachment to the dunya. People who are detached from the dunya, attached to the hereafter, they will only increase you in your attachment to the hereafter. Because that's how it works. Right? That if you have one fruit that goes bad, but instead of removing it from the bag and the bunch of fruit, you keep it. Slowly, that one fruit that begins to rot is going to harm and make all of the other fruit in the bunch begin to rot. Because it's the same thing when it comes to company. But there might be one bad apple, but slowly it's going to eat away at the other good apples. Because there might be one person in the group that is not a good, righteous person. And slowly, slowly, that's going to eat away at the rest of the people. So he says, therefore, a person needs to really watch out. They really need to watch out for who they befriend. So he mentions the fifth characteristic. He goes, al-khamisatu as-sidqu. He goes, the last one is maybe one of the most important when it comes to this dunya, is honesty. You want an honest friend, someone who's going to tell you the truth, not someone who's going to lie. فَلَا تَصْحَبْ كَذَّابًا فَإِنَّكَ مِنْهُ عَلَى غُرُورٍ. He goes, don't befriend a liar, because you're always going to be deceived. They're always going to be tricking you, deceiving you. You never know when to trust that person. But again, Al-Qamah Utaridi, when he gave his son those pieces of advice, majority of those pieces of advice, what they all had in common is you want a friend that you can rely upon. If your friend is not honest, how are you going to rely upon them? He says, وَهُوَ مِثْلُ السَّرَابِ يُقَرِّبُ مِنْكَ الْبَعِيدُ وَيُبْعِدُ مِنْكَ الْقَرِيبُ. He says, and the example of a lying friend is like a mirage. Mirage is what you see in the desert when it's hot, and you look in the distance and you see fake water. It's a deception. It makes it seem like there's water there, and you're going to begin walking towards the mirage, and you're not going to find anything there. Because that's the example of a dishonest friend. They're going to make promises to you, and they're going to tell you things, and we're going to do this, and I'll be there for you if this happens, and don't worry, do this, and I'm there, don't worry. And they're going to make things seem pleasing to you. But at the end, they're going to break their promise, and because they're liars. He says, therefore, a person will never truly be able to trust their friend if their friend is a liar. He says, therefore, you want to befriend someone who's honest so you can truly trust them and that they can help you. So therefore, these are the 5 characteristics Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala he mentions. So this last one, honesty. And then the absence of greed. Righteousness, good character. And then there was the first one that we did, al-aqlu, intellect. These are the 5 characteristics. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala says that these are 5 things that you should look for in a friend. And if somebody has this, he says, then that person is worthy of being made a friend. And in the end, Imam Ghazali says one thing, وَلَعَلَّكَ تَعْدَمُ اجْتِمَاعَ هَذِهِ الْخِصَالِ فِي سُكَّانِ الْمَدَارِسِ وَالْمَجَالِسِ وَالْمَسَاجِدِ. He then begins over here, he goes, look, maybe you're not going to find anybody with all 5 of these characteristics. Maybe. He goes, but then what do you do? So then he begins eliminating certain things. Okay, if a person has this but not this, then what do you give preference to? So then he begins. So he talks about that. But for now he says that look for someone who has all 5. And if you find someone who has all 5, he goes, cherish that friend and keep that friend. He goes, but if you can't, he goes, then we'll talk about it next week. Inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the understanding. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.